Hello and welcome to our Friday webinar. We have our special guest. Let's see, this is we're translating Parrot. This is probably our third or fourth episode. We're on with Pamela Clark. Welcome. Is it our third or fourth?
Okay.
Third. Okay. We have a great topic today. And this one, I hope we can all just put directly in effect heading into the weekend. And it's like tips for the best life for your flock, for your bird. She's going to give us a lowdown, the tips and tricks to keep a happy, healthy flock, which is something that I think is worthy of probably remembering every single day on being our bird stewards. So I can't wait to get this one started. And Pamela, welcome back. It's always good to see you. If you're We had previously had, I believe, Lisa Bono on for this day. We swapped out, so now we're very excited to do this presentation, and then we'll have Lisa back with us next month. So with that note, I believe you have a PowerPoint presentation.
I do. Let me just get that started here.
Also, if you have a question, if you're viewing with us, just a reminder that we'll try to get to those towards the end and to use the Q&A button and not the chat feature. Yes, there we go. The best life. So who doesn't want the best life for their birds?
But I need to find start slideshow. Let me do something else here. 1 second.
No worries. Oh, and I'm just gonna remind people why we're getting this started. Hey, our banana Nutriberries, the special editions, they are flying off the shelf and they're limited time only. So if you haven't had a chance to get the banana Nutriberries with the cool collector tin, this one right here. Don't forget. And it has the cool sticker. I've already used the sticker, so I can't show you it, but it's a little banana cockatiel.
Okay.
There we go.
I think I can manage to do this today. All right. From the beginning.
There we go.
Okay. Can you see this now?
Not yet, but
okay.
Just that, I think share screen.
Yeah, I know I'm having problems. It's because I can't see the place where I have to go.
Okay.
Once I share my screen, I'm just having a hard time. Everybody's saying hello, so
yeah, we have some from Australia. I'm sorry, I'm very excited because I want to go to Australia to see all the cockatoos, all the budgie, all the animals. You have so many wonderful birds there. I'm dying to see you in person in the wild. Although I do have a flock of Amazons that fly over my place. They did a flyby earlier, which is kind of cool. While we get this started, just anybody see any wild birds in their area, the wild parrots that kind of naturalize in your area here? Just curious. So we've got conures and Amazons here in Southern California, and I imagine lovebirds. Yeah, I'm going to say there's probably some Quaker parakeets somewhere else. Don't have those here in California, but
I'm just having trouble with my okay, you can't see this yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay, so I may need some help here. Maybe I am just screwing this up.
You had it earlier, whatever you did.
Okay, so let me pull you up. Okay.
Oh, hey, there we go. We're back up. We're back and running here.
Yes, but I can't get it to start the slide. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it to start the slideshow when I kept pressing on that.
I think sometimes computers like to mess with us, so that's what I'm going to blame it on.
Well, I'm going to blame it on the fact that I have not restarted my computer in longer than I can remember. So we'll be doing that this afternoon. All right. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today with us. As Laura said, this topic came about just kind of organically when Lisa couldn't present in her usually scheduled session. I said I would be happy to stand in her place, but I didn't have a topic. So after a little conversation, we came up with this one. How do you create the best life for your parrot? And I think the title that we stipulated was Tips and Essential Practices for Parrots of All Sizes. But once I sat down to actually create an outline for this, I realized that I could go in many different directions, but one of two really stood out to me. I could give you lots of small tips. After living with parrots for as long as I have, I could have sat down and just listed off a bunch of tips, and I'm sure that would have been very helpful. But what my heart wanted to do was to focus on one thing. If I could just give you one tip that would make your entire lives with your parrots much happier and much easier, then that was what I wanted to do. So that's what I chose for today's presentation, but I believe I will also share with you many small tips as well along the way. So hopefully no one will be disappointed today. So what is the one essential thing that we can all do? The best tip of all, it is this: to learn to practice inclusivity rather than exclusivity in living with our parrots. In the past, we have practiced exclusivity almost exclusively with our parrots. What does that mean? Well, we may have them living in another room, or they may only come out of their cages during certain well choreographed moments during the day. We keep them apart from us because having them with us is inconvenient. But I think we may all find in the final analysis, it is more inconvenient practicing exclusivity. So parrots are flock animals, right? You know, we say that all the time, but we don't really focus or go down the rabbit hole on the ramifications of that. Flocking means collective motion. Flocking is a behavior arising from simple rules followed by individuals, and flocking involves performing the same behavior at the same time. We call these parallel behaviors. And this is something that very few people actually understand. The way that cohesiveness is maintained in parrot flocks is when they all do the same thing at the same time. They all forage at the same time. They bathe at the same time, roost at the same time, vocalize at the same time. It is those parallel behaviors that form flock integrity, that hold the flock together. And that is the paradigm from which all parrots originate. But it is one that we have ignored rather exclusively. We also need some principles for success. Anytime we have a project or a goal, we want to look at the big picture first. We're not going to just start doing a bunch of little tasks. Instead, once we have our goal, we need to examine or investigate to see whether there might be some guidelines that would help us be more successful. And there are some things that we know about parrots for sure. So environment, this is the first one. Environment sets the stage for behavior to occur. The second, a parrot's quality of life impacts their behavior. Quality of life depends upon two major things. Now, it doesn't, I'm sure there may be other things, but I have been obsessed with quality of life for companion parrots, and I've done a lot of research. Google research on Google Scholar, not research on Facebook. And there are two things that many researchers agree upon that impact quality of life extensively. So the first is the ability to make choices. So the more choices any parrot can make on a daily basis is going to increase quality of life. The second is the ability to engage in natural behaviors for a bird. We also must respect the importance to parrots of proximity. There's that flock idea again. Parrots live in flocks, and proximity to other birds in that flock is of critical importance to them. I would go so far as to say that proximity is a primary reinforcer. Just like food is. It is necessary for life for companion parrots. You will hear a lot more about proximity from me in the very near future. I have a blog post that is almost finished because I think I'm going to be presenting to the parrot world some new ideas that will have some groundbreaking possibilities. And then lastly, we must understand neophobia and how to introduce new items. So we'll look at each of these a little more closely. Environment sets the stage for behavior to occur. Well, the implication of that then is, of course, that we can set up an environment for improved behavior, and we can also establish an environment that will cause poor behavior to be offered by our parrots. So look at this. This is Kendi, an African gray. She's about 26 years old here. I raised Kendi from a baby back when I was breeding decades ago and adopted her to a wonderful woman in Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. And I stayed in touch with her. When Kendi was about 25, her owner could no longer keep her for health reasons. So she came back to me and asked me to help her find a placement for Kendi. I had a client with a cockatoo in Colorado, and they expressed interest in Kendi. So I helped to facilitate an adoption, and Kendi went to their home. Kendi is a fully flighted parrot, and so they asked me to help them put together an environment that would help her be the best she could be. Believe me, I would have never had the nerve to recommend something like this to these people, but look at the extent to which they were willing to go for this bird. Oh my goodness. This is their second story landing. You can see the banister right here. They zip tied 2x4s on top of the banister so that she couldn't ruin it. And somehow they affixed this 2x4 to the wall on the other side. They made sure to protect the banister right there, the newel post or whatever was on the end. They made her a little PVC perch just in case she wanted to perch on the other end of it. And they hung this rope for her, because she was a fully flighted parrot, had been her whole life. So what did they achieve by doing this other than impressing me to the nth degree? Well, parrots always want to be up high, right? And so she naturally gravitated toward this area. Well, what happens if a parrot is up high? It prevents them from cavity seeking, right? It also is going to prevent her from being bored because parrots always want to chew on the place where they're perched, and this gives her endless chewing opportunities on those 2x4s that they can then just easily replace. So by giving her this as a part of her environment, they helped her to exhibit better behavior overall, because of course it also encourages more flying. That uses up a lot of energy, flying from the ground floor to the second floor, right? And that's what she was doing multiple times a day. So they got better behavior because she was exercised. They got better behavior because she was attracted to this area rather than to nesty places around the floor. So this was a huge success. Here's another example. This is a current client that I have right now, and we have some real challenges in her case. Her parents have dementia, and so she's moved into their home with her husband and her birds to care for them. And so they remodeled the basement so that they could do that. And so the basement we don't have a lot of wiggle room with the basement in terms of moving things around much. And she's got 3 budgies and 2 green cheek conures that don't always get along. And the green cheek conures have been very aggressive towards the owners. So I suggested a play area like this. And they're very easy to put together. She used a cage bottom from an old cage that she just had lying around. She affixed it to the wall with command clips. She was able to hang toys from the ceiling with command clips because they're, toys for small birds are light in weight. And then she was able to attach perches to this grid. So basically, all you need is a grid. And now everybody's behavior is better because they love this play area so much. Before, what the green cheeks used to play on, they used to hang out on top of the cage. And their primary activity from that location was launching flighted attacks against the owners. So this was a very successful little thing. Didn't take a lot of money, didn't take a lot of time. That's my point. Okay, next principle. Quality of life impacts behavior. This is Gracie. If you can see from her irises, she's not even a year old yet. They are gray. She's about 7 months old in this photo, and she was purchased. This owner was trying to do it right, so she got 2 African grays because she knew it's better to have 2 birds in a home than 1, but she didn't know much about birds. These were her very first parrots, and so she set up an environment that was not stimulating at all. She had their cages in a separate room because that's what somebody on social media told her she should do, and she really didn't understand the kind of enrichment that baby birds need. She wasn't providing any training to them. And so their needs as baby parrots were not being met at all. But I can tell you, and I do have photos before and after in another presentation of mine on feather damaging behavior, but they very quickly grew in all their feathers. It completely solved the problem, just moving their cages out into the living room, giving them appropriate enrichment, and doing some simple training. Boom, they were feathered. Quality of life. So remember, quality of life depends upon at least 2 things in this discussion: the ability to perform natural behaviors and the number of choices that a parrot is able to make. Well, the 2 natural behaviors that, we think of immediately are flying and foraging, but there are so many others, drinking water in a pool rather than out of a water bottle, stripping the bark from fresh branches. There's a million natural behaviors that parrots perform in the wild that we can also offer them in captivity with a little creativity. And then as far as making choices, well, if we provide an interesting environment with lots of different places to go, then they have that. We can give them with activities for the day. At this point, I sort of see myself as a preschool activity director, I mean, last night, I thought about what my parrots would be doing while I was giving this webinar today. I made sure that they had an interesting activity so that they didn't bother me. I didn't just lock the cage, although I did do that also, but they do have their activities new for this day, not just toys that have been hanging there for days. And then, of course, the best way to provide choices is through training, right? Every time you present a target stick, That's a choice the bird gets to make. Think about the number of choices that you could provide in a 5-minute training session. A lot, a lot. And we must expect the importance of proximity. Again, parrots are flocking animals. They need proximity to the others in the flock that are most important to them. And those are the adult humans, the flock leaders. I know that that expression fell out of favor long ago. So give me a better one. I Googled, synonyms for leader yesterday, and I didn't come up with any better. So I'm just going to use it. The parrots, they do not orient towards the other parrots in the house as their flock unless those parrots are the same species. Okay, so you can put a bunch of birds in a bedroom and they are not going to achieve any reinforcement from the other birds in there. They're just going to be waiting all day long for when they get to be with you. You are the people who matter, and they know that. Parrots are smart. They know, from which all the good things come, and it's not the other parrots in the house. So too much distance from those important people in the house is going to cause distress, as well as too much absences as well as I have a couple of clients who have very demanding schedules. They work night shift for a number of days and then they switch to day shift. The number of, or the amount of absence that kind of work schedule creates from your parrots is very different to bandage over. Okay, so parrots need proximity to the people in the flock who matter, but they also need to be protected from proximity to other parrots in the home that might cause them distress. And so the classic example is bird rooms. I have a pair-bonded pair of Congo grays. They may spend 5 minutes within 2 feet of each other once a day in the evening, and that is not necessarily guaranteed. The rest of the time, they will choose the proximity that they will perch in from the other bird, but that's going to range from 2 to 10 feet. So they need to be able to get away from other birds, just as easily as they need to move towards them in some cases. And if you take a bunch of birds of all different species, a large macaw, an Amazon, a cockatoo, a Pyonis, and an African gray, as we often find in a home, those birds would never be found in the same proximity. So if you put them too close together in one single room, you're going to get a lot of distress. That's the point I wanted to make. And we need to understand neophobia. Adult parrots are afraid of new things, but parrots need new things. So therefore, we need special techniques in order to introduce them. This can be handled very easily and very quickly. So if any of you who are listening now, if you've tried to introduce a toy like that and you had to put it across the room for 2 weeks, and then, all in all, it took you a month to introduce this toy, I'm here to tell you, you can introduce that toy in half an hour using the constructional approach. It'll be done, but you're going to have to get some help. Call me, please, okay? You can buy just an hour's worth of time and I can tell you how to do this. But both the constructional approach, which is also called the CAT protocol, as well as desensitization and counter conditioning, those 3 strategies are all very easy to do wrong. And they are very easy to misunderstand. So that's why I say, I'm not going to send you an article, I'm not going to put it in the chat box so that you can all grab it on how to use these things. If you are absolutely determined to approach this in a DIY fashion, I do have a blog post called Neophobia and Companion Parrots. But it would be a lot better if you just got help. Okay, so we're going to now start to put these principles into practice. So this is our goal. We're going to create an environment that increases quality of life to the greatest extent possible by providing as many choices that the bird can make, especially in the area of performing natural behaviors. And then we're going to teach the parrot to enjoy it. Here's another simple idea. I don't want to blow past this slide without drawing your attention to a few things. The owner had a deck. She just screened it in with wire that allows the sunshine to go through. Window screening is not a good covering for an outdoor aviary because UVB rays don't go through it. So she's provided a wire mesh aviary so the bird can have fresh air and sunshine. Enjoying that is a natural behavior. She also provided just a cheap basket here, and she strung it on this grapevine, and she drilled holes in the grapevine so that she could hang it from the roof of the aviary. So simple materials, cheap to do, and now the bird has a different perching opportunity. So look at all the choices he can make here. He can perch on the grapevine. He can perch on the basket, in addition to all the other perches that she had in this aviary. And he's got a foraging opportunity here. She has stuffed Swiss chard leaves into this acrylic spiral. So there's a lot going on here that increase the choice for this bird and allow for natural behaviors. And he can chew on the basket. Okay. So the best physical environments provide a habitat, not just a cage. So if your heart is sinking and you're immediately thinking of these photos you've seen online where people have taken a whole room and they've strung all this stuff from the ceilings, no, that is not what I am talking about. A habitat and the best physical environment just ensures ongoing proximity to the people. So it is essential that you put the cage in the living area, no separate rooms. I know it means you're going to clean more. Call me, I have tips. You're going to want to provide play gyms as well as hanging perches and tabletop perches and stopping off perches. Do you need to be wealthy and have a big house to do this? No, this picture is from my little house that I live in currently. I am neither wealthy nor live in a big house. So what did I do to expand choices here? Well, I got cages with play tops. You always want a play top cage, never a dome top cage, because it expands the number of choices that the bird can make so greatly. They can eat on top or eat inside, play with toys on top or play inside, and so on. I chose cages that have toy hangers because it provides them with another perching place. Plus, it gives me a really good place to hang enrichment that will be at the bird's eye level. Birds do not like bending over and interacting with enrichment. It also gives me another station for my bird to be on. Birds don't like to perch on top of dome top cages. They do not like to perch on top of dome top cages because it's not comfortable. So here I've expanded choices. I have a little perch here. It's just a simple dummy perch. This was taken right after I moved in. I have since replaced it with an Avis station so the birds can look out the window. I live on a horse ranch and there's a great big huge meadow out here. I'm set back from the road, so they have a beautiful green space to look out on. I have a couple of tabletop perches here that I've put on a kitchen island. So simple, but I'm working with what I have, right? That's what we all do. We all work with what we have. Same with all my clients, we just like the basement lady, the lady that's got to live in the basement. She has very severe restrictions on what she can do, but we still found something that we could do with her. All right. Housing choices, cages. Do not base your choice of a cage on wingspan. Yes, I know all about the study, okay? There are many more important aspects of a bird's life that should dictate cage size. Behavior is a study of one. A bird's previous history is very important. If you have a bird who has lived in a small cage its whole life, and you put it in a big cage like this, you're likely to get this behavior. I'm hanging on the cage door. Let me out of here, please. Okay? No, this can be very intimidating for birds. So no, you don't stick a bird in a cage like this just because they have a wingspan that measures a certain number of inches. Fear levels will also dictate your cage choice, as will activity levels too. And that, some species are more active than other species. A Goffin's cockatoo may very well need a cage this big because they're Mexican jumping beings, right? Not so the sedate older Amazon who's always had his wings clipped. What's he going to do in a cage this big? And then the amount of time spent in the cage daily, as well as the size of the parrot. And the biggest problem with cages this big is that they don't come with play tops. You must have a play top. So if we, refer back to this idea of habitat, another problem with a cage like this, running out and buying a cage, is that you've shot your wad, right? You probably had a budget. If you buy a cage this big, you're not going to have money left over for the other things that you need, which are other perches and places. Birds have to go places. And another problem with a cage this big is you're not going to be able to fit it into the living area. I would never in a million years buy a cage like this for any of my parrots, even my Moluccan cockatoo. What is a better choice? This, a cage with a plate top. Also, width matters a lot. If you put a parrot in a cage that is very much taller than it is wide, I don't care who the bird is, they're just going to sit there and they're not going to move around because parrots are very sensitive to the dimensions of the space that they're in. So I regard this cage as having pretty good dimensions. This would be a great cage for an African gray or an Amazon. I think it's 48 inches wide. You don't need any bigger than that, even for your bigger parrots, maybe for the large macaws that need the height because of their tails as well as the width. And then once you have the right cage, you're going to put papers on top of the grate. I know there's a number of you that are probably going, ew, no, that's never going to work in a million years. I am here to tell you, girlfriends, it works so well. I would never go back. So here's what you do. You put down 7 days worth of papers on top of the grate. This is going to make it easier for you to check feather shreds. If your bird happens to be feather damaging, it is going to allow your bird the opportunity to go down there and pick up all the food pieces that he dropped in his haste, but really might like to consume after all. And then it's going to mean that you don't ever have to scrub that grate again. And changing papers is ever so much easier because you just come through at the end of the day. You look, observe, did my bird have the normal amount of droppings? What did he eat? And then boom, you just wrap that up, throw it in the trash, and you've got clean papers and you didn't have to pull that pan out. I do put papers in the pan as well, but I only change them once a week. And your bird does not eat food that drops in poop, and he does not walk in his poop. They are smarter than that. After you have the papers over your grate, you're going to perch this cage for comfort and efficiency from your bird's point of view. And once you get it perched, you're not going to rearrange the perches in the cage. That is not a nice thing to do to parrots. This would be akin to someone who doesn't know you very well and has no idea how you use your furniture throughout the day, coming in and rearranging all of your furniture for you. You wouldn't appreciate it. Neither does your parrot. Don't do that to him, please. It is good to have a perch across the middle of the cage here, so he can go back and forth from side to side. Then don't put stuff in the bottom of the cage unless you have a parrot who plays down there. Most parrots don't. Some do, though. But for most parrots, you don't want them focusing on the bottom of the cage because that's where they get nesty. Oh, yeah, regarding nesty birds, for those, don't put the papers on top of the grate. For everybody else, do. But you're going to, don't put perches in the bottom third of the cage, because again, parrots always want to perch up as high as they can. And then in the top third of the cage, you're going to put, oh, in this corner, you might put a corner perch that is a pedicure perch. The only one that works is the sandwalk perch. There's a tip. Go buy a sandwalk perch that will span this corner, or just a straight sandwalk perch that extends into the center of the cage from this side of the cage. Then you might get a wood bolt-on perch and attach it to the back so that it extends into the inside of the cage from this height. And then over here, you might put a pedicure perch. There's no need for birds to have rope perches. If you want your bird to have a rope perch, hang a boing from the ceiling on the outside. And don't put a boing in the middle of the cage. That just makes it harder for your bird to get from one side to the next. Unless you have a bird that loves boings. You know, obviously there's going to be exceptions to most of these generalizations that I'm giving you, but this is the best way to perch a cage. You know, your bird needs perches so that he can do stuff. The perches are not enrichment. They're there so that they can help your bird interact with enrichment. So the perches are going to give you the places where you're going to hang toys. I see a lot of cages with toys hung in places where the bird could never reach them or comfortably access them. So there's my tips on housing. Okay, additional perching options. I believe you need at least 2 in the living area. So in the living area, if we're practicing inclusivity, we're going to have the play top cage and 2 additional perches of your choosing. So I have listed the 2 I think are best: a play gym, a good play gym that doesn't move around, and a hanging perch. Then you also need stopping off perches, and the best guideline is to have a perch in every room that the parrot will spend some time in. Why? Because the worst perch in the world is your shoulder or your lap, okay? I'm not going to get into that today. I've said plenty about that in other webinars. But parrots need places where they can perch independently. Okay, what are stopping off perches? I'm sure you're wondering. They are for flighted birds and even non-flighted, the birds that always want to monitor you, right? They're the ones, they always got to know, they got to be in your business and know what you're doing. So let's say you're going back to the bedroom you're not going to spend any time there. So your bird doesn't need to fly all the way back to the bedroom. You don't need to bring him back there with you. Maybe you're just looking through the closet to figure out what jacket you want to wear or something. So for that, you need a stopping off perch. So it's just a perch attached to the wall. You might use one of those grids, although I have another idea for you as well, where the bird can just fly to it and see where you've gone. That's what a stopping off perch is. Now, let's look at this photo. Again, smaller tips. This is a shot into my kitchen. Okay, so what you see in the foreground here is an old Wayne's bottle brush play stand that my movers ruined for me because they broke the perch off of it. It used to look just like this. I have another one right here in the background that Marco is actually perching on. She's right here. So the one now that it doesn't have a perch, I use it as a flat play area. But let's look at what I've done to this perch, just to give you some more tips. This perch has a point that goes upward, a piece of wood that goes upward, and then different wood perches that extend off of it. So it's like a tree. So what did I do for enrichment? I went outside with my loppers. I have a wild paradise apple tree, and I just cut a branch off of that. You can see it has little ripe apples on it. And I just used zip ties right here, black zip ties, to attach it to this perch. So now it has many more perching opportunities as well as foraging opportunities. And I've maximized on her ability to perform natural behaviors, right? Just by doing this, super simple. And then I also attached one of those bolt-on perches to the outside of the cage. That's really why this one play stand is here, so that I don't poke my eye out trying to walk up to this cage. But I did it just to expand the number of choices that my birds can make. So now they just have another perch that they can sit on in that room. It would be the same thing as, say, a tabletop perch. And I put a water dish here and a pellet dish. Why? Because one of the ways that parrots eat naturally, see, parrots usually move a lot more when they're foraging than we ever imagine. It's very normal for a parrot to take a pellet and fly up to another perch to eat it, and then come down, get another one, and fly back up to that perch. So by having a dish of pellets on the outside of the cage, I provide for that natural behavior. And then water, we should just have water everywhere for our birds in dishes. Okay, perch ideas and recommendations. My very favorite is the Ava station. If you remember back to the Wayne's bottle brush play stand that I just showed you, it had different perches extending out. So does the Ava station, made by mybirdybuddy.com. Parrots have what is called a biophilic nature. That means they gravitate to the shapes of the outdoors, the appearance of things in the outdoors, the colors of the outdoors. So parrots accept the Ava station very easily because it appeals to their biophilic nature. As far as hanging perches, she also has another perch, just like the Ava station, but it's called the Ava hang. It hangs from the ceiling and it has a bungee cord in the middle of it. So if a bird bounces when they're on it, or if a bird flies up to it and lands on it, it bounces, which is another natural behavior. Birds land on branches that bounce. And then if they flap their wings, it also goes around in a circle. So that's one of my favorite hanging perches. And then I'm going to share with you my Christmas stand hack. Go to Goodwill and get a Christmas tree stand, and then go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy a piece of PVC, a length of PVC, shortest length they'll let you have, that is at least 4 feet tall and is about 6 inches in diameter, 4 to 6 inches in diameter. And so then you put that in your Christmas tree stand and tighten the screws down. And then what do you have? you have a vase, right? You just go outside and cut yourself some fresh branches, and you come in and you put them in the vase. And what do you have? You have a play stand of fresh branches. And yes, it's going to make a hell of a mess, but we chose to live with parrots. Okay, some more perch ideas and recommendations for that. Please forgive the horrible photo. I just lifted it off of Amazon to illustrate the fact that you can go on Amazon and you can search for wire grid basics, and you'll find a bunch of stuff like this. So if you don't have an old bird cage hanging around, you can go buy a grid, and then you can attach perches to it for stopping off. They also have all kinds of stuff like little platforms. And so if you have like a small bird, this could be a whole entertainment center for that bird, because they come with little cups. You can put stuff in there for foraging. You can have a ball with this. So stopping off perches, again, they're great for parrots who monitor people, locate them in places where your bird might not be able to see you when you're moving around the house, but do not give them to birds who stalk people. Okay, if you've got a bully bird flighted who's ever launched flighted attacks and they're in the business of stalking certain family members, don't give them stopping off perches. Another way, though, that you can make a good stopping off perch without going the Amazon wire grid basic route is to go to a craft store. They all have round trays that are made out of some kind of soft wood. They'll have a couple of handles on them, so they are decorative, and they're sold without any sort of paint or varnishing on them, so that you can decorate them to match your own, decor in your house. So you can paint them, you can decoupage them. Well, they're going to get chewed, so don't put too much effort into it, but you can make them attractive, and then you just drill a hole in the center and glue a perch in there, and then you hang them on your wall. Easy. Okay. So for small parrots, I realize I've not given you many ideas for small parrots, but I promise before we end here, I have a whole little enrichment pamphlet that I paid a client to put together for me. And there are some additional ideas, including a little outdoor aviary for small parrots. You can just attach it to a window in your house. I will put the link to it in the chat and you can all have it, okay? That's my gift to you for today. But for small parrots, go to Amazon and buy some scarf rings. Somebody had to explain to me what scarf rings were, but scarf rings you hang in your closet and you thread your scarves through them. Well, little birds just love to perch in these. And again, you can make them into a little sort of activity center for your bird, right? So you've got scarf rings, you've got the grid basics, and then, you can just go out and cut small branches, and you can put command clips anywhere virtually. So I'm talking about the little clips that you use to hang your Christmas lights, right? A little branch just fits in there perfectly, and you can replace them whenever you need to. Okay, so I know there's going to be somebody who's going to say, oh my God, no, we can't give fresh branches. We've always heard we can't give fresh branches. It's just not going to be safe. There's going to be insects. There's going to be bacteria. There's going to be, I don't know what, but it's not safe. I'm here to tell you folks it is safe, and you will thank me till the end of your days for giving you this tip. So all you need to do is go to your app store and buy an app called Picture This. It's fantastic and well worth the money. It'll cost you $39.99 a year. All you do to use it, you just take your phone outside, you pull the app up, you take a photo of whatever the plant is, and it will immediately bring up the ID of the plant, and it will have, in addition, an encyclopedic quantity of information about that plant. I even used it to diagnose a house plant that is sick. The leaves were slightly chlorotic, yellowish. And so I wanted to know why, and it told me exactly why. It is, I mean, whoever developed this app, it was a genius. As far as treating the branches, here is what you need to know. Never ever pick wood up from the ground, because if wood is lying on the ground, that means it's decomposing. It's supposed to be attached to a tree growing, manufacturing chlorophyll. So if you find wood on the ground, it's because it was already dead on the tree, and then there was a big storm and it fell off the tree because it was already dead, and now it's on the ground. And yes, it is going to be full of insects and bacteria and fungi, because those are the agents of decomposition. So instead, you have to go out and find a tree that is actively growing, and you cut the branches off of that. So here you have Chucky and Ruby enjoying pretty close proximity on a fresh branch that I just zip tied to a cage. Here, this is another branch from that apple tree, just right after I cut it. And what I did was, there's some leather laces. I attached it at an angle to the side of the cage on purpose. And now what's happened is they've chewed all the leaves off of it, and they've stripped all the bark off of it. And now it has just become scaffolding on which I attach other enrichment to, because they use it for perching. So they have basically engineered their own perches by just taking the raw materials of what I provided. So if you get actively growing wood, you don't have to bake it. You don't even have to wash it. You don't have to take the leaves off of it. You just, give it a good shake outside, and then just come in and give it to your birds. They also need sunshine in the outdoors. Harnesses are not the best option for this. I'm running out of time, and I want to save a little bit for questions, so I'm not going to go into that. An outdoor aviary is best, or a smaller size version for the little guys. If you can't put up an outdoor aviary, it's okay. Go on Google and search for the cage oiler, and just, carry or train your bird so that getting him in there is not stressful. I can help you with that. And there's lots of other people who can as well. And then put him in the carrier and go for a picnic. Just put him up on the picnic table. Let him get some sunshine that way. But always treat every parrot as if it is fully flighted. Please do not ever take your bird outside unrestrained. I am very grateful for your attention today. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop my share so that I can put that document in the chat box for everybody. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that works.
Laura?
That works. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if we have time for a question. That was a very thorough presentation. Thank you very much, Anne. And I was gonna just throw in this. I just grabbed this when you're talking. I have this from the Dollar Tree store. We made. It's just, it says for my little budgie friend, when we have him out, so he has his little flight time. I hang it on the doorknob. It's just a little craft piece that so we know it just says bird is out, be careful. It's just a reminder, so he can spend an extra, as much time as he wants out there. And it's on the handle, so if you open the door, you're bumping into this, so it's a reminder. That's why I got one that hangs on the handle there. I don't know if that helps. If you have a small space like I do, and you got to make do with what you got, my bird room is also my office. It's just everything. So
yes, yeah. No, I mean, I think everybody these days needs to make do with what we have. I don't know anybody who's got all the money they need or all the space they need, but by being creative, so what we do is we keep those prints. Okay, now for everybody who's listening, that small bird enrichment strategy, that booklet is in the chat.
Yes, I
So
see
you
it
can
there.
go
Everyone
in
should be able to
there,
access.
you can go in there, click on the link, it'll open up on your screen, and then you can save it. And not everybody knows how to do that always, so I like to just
Okay.
explain.
So we have a question from Dorothy. They want to know, oh, this is an interesting one. How to enrich the life of a blind cockatiel. So a visually impaired or blind cockatiel or any bird. What would you recommend?
I would recommend providing enrichment mostly through training. As far as things that you can provide, I like to focus on toys that make sound, toys that make noise. And then I would also say that I have lived with blind birds. Somebody says the document did not come through into chat.
Oh, it should be right up. Let's see. I see it in the chat. It's a PDF. Look, it's a PDF, correct? And it says small bird enrichment strategies. Yeah, it should be in there. Maybe we can put on the if you when this is over, we could put on the web page or a link. We'll figure out if we can get it somewhere else. But in the meantime,
Okay.
it is there on the chat. So
Okay, very good. It seems that only you can see it because we've now had 3 people who've typed in that they can't see it either.
Okay.
It's not
Let's see,
visible.
maybe you need to choose everyone in the drop down. So I think you have it. Sorry, I can see it. That's why. Everyone. So you have the selection of the 2 button. I just select everybody, and then it'll or pan.
So,
It'll
oh, so I have to select host
everyone.
and
Yeah, and select
panelists.
everyone. Yeah.
Oh, everyone. Okay. All right. I'll do it again and see if that. I've never had to do that before. I always just send things to one person. Okay. See if this works. Okay, blind cockatiel. So one of the things that parrots really love is predictability also. So I would enhance his environment by using different sounds to signal that a different activity is going to happen. So I would, for instance, have like I'd go get a bunch of different bells or get a Tibetan bowl. Okay, everybody should have it
Yes.
again now. Okay, so get a bunch of different, you might get a clicker, you might use single words, but remember that parrots, most of their communication is conducted through body language, and this bird cannot read yours. So that puts him at a great deficit. And so we can help him by figuring out how to create as much predictability for him as possible. So if you cover him at night, then when you go to uncover him, I would first use a sound or a particular phrase. You should talk to him all the time in English because parrots easily learn to understand English. But then, by the time they've lived with us for a few years, they generally understand most of what we say. So talk to him a lot, but also just for fun, make use of other sounds. So, right before you uncover him, you might say, "Hi, it's time to start your day." And then you uncover him. But then, Joan Goldston, what do you mean you still can't find it? Just email me, Joan, and I'll send it to you. Joan is a friend client from way back. Okay, so but then before you put your hands in his cage, you might make a click sound and then proceed to change out his food dishes. And then when you bring his food back, you might make that same click sound. So every time you're going to do something with the dishes, it's a click sound. If you're going to ask him to step up, or I don't know, what he does for you, but if he steps up before you ask him, you might ring a bell or make sure that you say the same thing every time. So to increase his quality of life, I would do that. I would also do training with him. A blind bird can train, but I'd have to figure out how. I'd have to do a consultation with you so I could have some time to brainstorm this. I'm Well, I will just say there would be many ways to do it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And then as far as inside his cage, don't move stuff. Don't rotate toys. Don't move stuff. Have one place where you put something new every single day. So he knows that he can go to that spot because he will learn his cage. But you want to have like the noise toy in one place and have it stay there, and have other toys there, but have them always stay in the same place. You can, switch them out, of course, but have the location of the toys always stay in the same place. And that should be especially true for the new thing that you put in there every day. I'm a big fan of providing daily activities for our birds to do. That old advice about rotating toys, you couldn't enrich a hedgehog doing that.
Okay, sorry, I developed that way. So question for you about harnesses real quick. Why you're not fond of them, like for the medium to large birds, especially. It's just a little more insight on that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. So a harness is a form of restraint. Parrots don't like being restrained. So from the get-go, you are having to teach a bird a behavior that they really don't want to do under even the best of circumstances. Secondly, we have borrowed this idea of taking a parrot outside on a harness, I think, from our experience with dogs. With dogs, we provide reinforcement in broad strokes. We're going to give the dog a bath. We're going to take the dog for a walk. Parrots don't really appreciate broad strokes. Parrots are more about subtle interactions. Like, for instance, I might walk into the kitchen and Marco makes a kissing sound. And I look over at her and I say, "What are you up to? I see you, you parrot, you." And whenever she wants to let me know that what I've said is stupid, she always makes a raspberry sound. So that's the kind of interaction that parrots want to have. They want face to face. Okay, so now let's look at the fact that parrots are neophobic. They're afraid of new things. And they are used to living in a container, right? All of their life experience has taken place in a container. Emerging from that container to see 100,000 new things is not on every parrot's list of what they want to do. It is the opposite of what they want to do. So I will say that there are some birds who are good candidates for harness training. And I readily, if anybody comes to me and they want to harness train their bird, I'm all over it. And I can do it very effectively for you, but I have certain rules. And the rule is you're going to use a start button. So I helped a client in Southern California, an elderly gentleman, to harness train his African gray parrot. African grays are not easy to harness train. Elderly men generally are not good trainers if they've never trained during their life. So this was a difficult-ish case. But so the start button, she's fully flighted. So I told him, you have to harness train her in the same place every single time, and it has to be a flat place. And she has to come there of her own volition. So you're going to take your harness and your goodies and whatever else you need, your paraphernalia for the training, and you're going to go to that place. And if she does not join you, then harness training is not going to take place. And so later on, the start button also becomes a way for the parrot to indicate whether she wants to go for a walk that day or not. So this is the only way that harness training should ever be done. And so what he found is that she wanted to go for a walk once or twice a week. So harness training has to be on the parrot's terms, not on the human's terms, not if you're using a restraint device that parrot cannot get out of. And so I just heard from him. I've consulted with him for 3 years. He talks to me once a month, and he was so delighted. I talked to him about a week ago. He had just taken both of his African grays, because now he has 2, and I've helped him all this time through getting the second gray, and now he's harness training that gray. And he was so delighted because he was able to put the harness on Maria Pia and take her outside in the streets of San Francisco. He'd taken both birds there just for a weekend for some fun. And now that is practicing inclusivity, right? Look at that. This is what I teach my clients. So he took his birds to San Francisco for a fun weekend. She put the harness on and went for a walk with him on the busy streets of San Francisco, and she had a blast.
That's fine.
So this is why I say that harness training is just not the best option if you just want to get your bird some sunshine. And the only way that I approve of harness training is as I've described it.
I'm just imagining like harness training to a bird is more akin to like taking a cat on a leash sometimes as opposed to a dog on a leash,
yes,
right?
Yes.
There's exceptions to the rules.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I think I have to announce our winner of today's giveaway. We're already at the we thank you for answering some of the questions at the end. I know that we covered a lot of territory. But I want to get this out. We have our giveaway, and that's going to go to David Mudry. Congratulations. Ooh, it's going to glow. Look, I have a glowing canister of the banana Nutriberries. That's going to go out to you, as well as another Lafeber product of your bird's choice. And let's see. Wow. Okay, so hopefully everyone got the link for the PDF, and check that out for sure. Thank you, Anne, or thank you for everybody, and thank you, Pamela, for coming on and this awesome presentation. Totally appreciate it. So if you didn't catch it from the beginning, or you had to jump off later, watch it, because these are really important takeaways. And Pamela can't thank you enough for going over that, the presentation and everything. Superb. Someone just said superb. So I agree. Thank you so much. And we're going to see you on again, Pamela, in October, which is right around the corner, for another great topic. And we kind of have a focus for October, don't we? A theme, I think.
Yes, we do. Yes.
So we're going to do some, is it the senior citizens a little bit? Or
yeah, I think we're going to talk about adopting older birds and, assimilating them into your household.
Yeah.
With older. So I stipulate the definition of an older parrot as over the age of a year.
Okay. Well, that'll be, so we got to tune into that for sure.
Well, I mean, so what we're really talking about is just birds who've lost their homes, right? And now you're adopting an older bird. Well, some birds lose their homes at the age of a year. They don't all lose their homes after they're 20 years old or 25, like Kendi did. And so I think that the challenges that we're faced with are really the same, whether the bird is a year old or 20 years old. You have to move them into your home and do so in a way that creates least distress and is most successful.
There you go. There's a sneak preview. You got to tune in. Tune in to Pamela's next presentation next month. Another great episode of Translating Parrot. And then next Friday, everyone, we're going to be back with Dr. Tom Tolley for an episode of Ask the Vet. So join us then. Come back and join us. We got a full 4 episodes in October coming up. Pamela is going to lead the charge with this intro. I can't wait to find out more about the integrating an older bird into your flock. So there we go. All right, guys. On that note, just want to wish everyone a wonderful weekend. All the best to you and your flock. Pamela, thanks again for an awesome presentation. Until next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.